Hello there, everybody! Another review. Another video of me trying to get good lighting. I have now employed the use of a little lamp, which might have a magnet, so maybe I shouldn't be resting this on my laptop. Hopefully I didn't destroy anything. There we go. There we go. This time, a review of a middle school series, which kind of surprised me because I have no idea what middle schoolers like to read. I'm always very bad at predicting that kind of thing. I'll be like, oh, this is not a book for like a 12-year-old, and then I'll hear 12-year-olds reading it and they're like, yes, I love this book, and I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, guess I was wrong. But one thing I have noticed, and that is that the book industry seems to assume that anything with fart jokes and yucky villains is good for middle schoolers. And I mean, okay, fine, I would say that people up to age 15 and even higher, let's be honest, find toilet humor incredibly funny. This doesn't mean, however, that any book that includes that kind of banter should be considered appropriate for them. Often enough, books that have low-level jokes can have higher-level content, and I think this is the case for the Christian fantasy book series The Wingfeather Saga by Andrew Peterson. The series starts out with Janner Igby and his younger siblings Lily and Tink. They live in a little cottage with their mother Nia and their grandfather Podo. Their land is infested with fangs of Dang, which are basically lizard men who are the soldiers of a big creepy villain called Nag the Nameless. When Nag hears rumors that the Igby family might be in possession of the famed jewels of Aniera, they have to flee, starting an adventure that will change their lives and that of the world with it. The first book starts out very fun and campy, but the series gradually gets darker. There are quite a few "oh, the author would dare" moments. The humor also becomes less, although it is present in all four books. For the first book, I would say the qualification middle grade definitely fits, although some scenes still push it, but the later books are not age appropriate at all and would be better for older teens. There are some very scary and disturbing scenes, not to mention quite a few disgusting creatures to haunt your nightmares. Basically, if you remember the witch from the How to Train Your Dragon series, that, but somehow even worse. I also felt the protagonists acted a lot more mature than their age. So how does the series hold up if you leave aside the age appropriateness for a minute? I would say it holds up very well. There are deep topics, heartbreaking moments, and beautiful relationships. Very heavy topics are dealt with, but not in a way that seem too casual or joking. The books feature quite a few plot twists and are full of exciting escapades. Even though there are a lot of characters, it doesn't become confusing because each character is distinct and lovable, my favorite being the Florid Sword. This next part has some huge spoilers for the fourth book, so if you want to skip that, then I'll put the timestamp in the description so you can, go to the next part. So, although I like the books, the fourth book was a weak spot. So it's supposed to wrap everything up, but it actually just creates more questions and has characters doing some very dumb things. So, for this review, I'll just focus on the big issue for me. So at the end, the Maker, which is basically God, tells Tink that he will help turn all of the mutants, which yes are in the books, back into normal people again, and that Tink will know what to do when the time comes. So it turns out what he has to do is kill himself, sacrifice himself, so these other characters can become normal again. I felt a bit strange that Tink didn't really know what sacrifice he was going to have to make. You can't just push someone into a situation where everyone expects them to do something they didn't know anything about. Anyway, then Janner jumps in and sacrifices himself. Yes, he literally shrivels up and dies. The main character ends up looking like a dried, smoking voodoo doll. Even more annoying, his family doesn't even seem to mourn, they just move on. A few days later, someone has the idea they could use some magic water to resurrect Janner. Now, I dislike this for a variety of reasons. Firstly, it's literally necromancy. And I'm also pretty sure it was established in the first book that the water doesn't do that, but I'm not sure about that. It also cheapens Janner's sacrifice to just bring him back to life. But anyway, having the main character die at the end is a risky move for a book for young people, so I don't know how I feel about that. That's also one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons that I feel like this might not be for younger children. So, how would I rank the books? I don't know why I suddenly decided to do that for this video and no other videos. But let's go with it. I think my favorite book is the second one, which is called North or Be Eaten. It has a lot of storylines going on, which also quite sadly means you get alternate points of view chapters, which is very annoying, but also very effective, so... like the second Lord of the Rings movie, it still has the familiar elements of home, but also the new beginnings of the adventure ahead, so it's like a bridge between both worlds. Next up would be the first book, On the Edge of the Dark Sea of Darkness. It's the big beginning and also the most light-hearted book. It's fun, but has a lot of emotional moments. Book 4, The Warden and the Wolf King, had a lot of problems, like I said, but it still ranks third. It was quite dark, but enjoyable. The third book, The Monster in the Hollows, was one I did not enjoy, and what I'm about to explain, that is the only reason that book 4 was not down on the list. So the reason I dislike book 3 even more is not necessarily a problem with the book that I would like say this makes it a bad book. It's just something I personally really don't like. So the book is well written, but I hated so many parts of it. So Tink is bullied relentlessly, and there's lots of injustice for everyone all round. Now, I did feel bad for Tink, but the one I felt bad for the most was Janner. Because he is the oldest, and because of his role in the family, the way it works in their culture is basically he has to protect Tink. And this means that Janner has to skip out on going to a club that will get him many new friends, and instead go to a fighting workshop where he gets beat up daily. Now, this may not seem like a big deal, but the thing is, in the book, it's very important to Janner that he would go to, like, this bookbinding club, which would, like, restore for him this feeling of normalcy and, like I said, give him the chance to make friends. But instead, he has to go along with his little sibling to this club he doesn't care about, where he just gets bullied all day, and, basically... everyone in the entire book keeps feeling bad for Tink and like talking about, oh, it's so hard for Tink, oh, it's so hard for Tink. And it's like, okay, yeah, it is. I totally agree. But then they just kind of ignore Janner. Like, there are some scenes where people acknowledge that his life is rough, but they never try to do anything about it. They're just like, yeah, sucks for you, man. And then it just goes on. And I felt so bad for Janner because he just has to put up with some terrible stuff. And not even for the same reasons Tink has to put up with it. Like, for Tink, it's like reasons that would make sense. Where you're like, okay, I know you're suffering, but you can still see it in this light of, yeah, it makes sense because of who I am and what's going on, you know? Like, you can put it into its own place. But for Janner, it's just, no, you're the oldest. That's the reason. Anyway, that's why... I ranted on too long about this book, but I really, really did not like the third one. It made me so mad. But like I said, it's not badly written or anything. It's just that, ugh. Maybe it's too well written because it makes me, ugh. Okay. So, in the end, I definitely do like these books, and I think they're great reads. Just the main problem for me is just that the humor is targeted toward young teens, whereas the content is more suitable for older ones. You should probably not give these books to the actual age range they are recommended for. If you're one of those older teens, I would encourage you to pick the series up. It's great fun, and like I said, the content can definitely be confronting and intense. Just wait a few years before letting your younger siblings join in the fun.